All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me with the live stream and the Q&A. So we have a Zoom room where we have live attendees that get to ask questions. Also, those that are out there on either LinkedIn, Facebook, or YouTube, you can type in your questions. We get to all the questions for those that are in the Zoom room, but we also are able to usually get to a couple questions that are on the social media platform. So if you do wish to join, email us at hazel@inventtribe if you want to get in the Zoom room and ask your questions live. So I always start out, give everybody a little bit of background on myself. I've coached over 170 inventors to license their own products. I've licensed 5 of my own products, and I'm presently getting royalty checks monthly, quarterly, and yearly. And I help a lot of inventors. That's just what I've gotten really good at is getting deals closed and helping people, point them in the right direction, showing them the roadmap that I've used, that hundreds of people have used before them to get their products on the shelf, producing royalties. And, it's a lot of fun. It's kind of crazy, seeing not only my products out there, but, the many products that I have coached and taught inventors how to get their products on the shelf, selling and making them and their family money. And so I'm here to help. I'm here to figure out a way to help people get their product licensed from, tons of different categories. And I want to do these live Q&As because obviously we do have a paid membership for our tribe, and you can be inside the tribe and get to ask your questions regularly. And we also like to do these live Q&As for the public so that people that are outside and they're just either getting started or they're going through the process and they're getting their product license, they need some help. So that's why we do them. And so we're here. So let us get it cracking. Cody, thank you for being on. I already have a ton of questions. Awesome. Thank you everybody already. We're already getting a ton of questions. So if you do have a question, type it in the chat box or in the Q&A box on Zoom, because the more and more of these questions that fill up, because we're only doing an hour, I usually do hot seat for the last 10 minutes and try to bang out every question I can, but keep them coming in so that we can make sure we get yours in. So Cody, what if you find out during the patenting process that your idea has already been patented while you are closing a licensing deal or have already signed a licensing deal? Cody, you are in luck. This has happened to me twice. 3 times. Twice I specifically remember. The third time, either way, 2 times. And so the 2 times that happened to me. One time, first time, I had my product, did my prototyping, filed my PPA, did all these things, the five steps of licensing, bam, 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 bam. And then I got it into a company. They were super excited. They called me back immediately. They didn't call, they emailed. They always email. They emailed me immediately and they're like, Dave, we love this product. Let's get moving forward on this thing. We are literally working through a contract. We've got a contract, we're negotiating it. And then this Kickstarter comes out and it is the exact product. There wasn't any discernible difference between the 2 products. It was just the same thing. And so the company comes to me, they're like, what do we do? And so, being an early inventor, I was inexperienced. I didn't necessarily know what to do there because their Kickstarter campaign said patent pending. We didn't necessarily know how to navigate that. And so we were just like, all right, how do we get around this? And essentially it came down to the company's like, we need to see the patent come out before we'll do anything. I was like, all right, we're dead in the water. And so nothing came of that deal, just from my inexperience. And so the second time it happened was very different because I knew and understood what needed to happen to make the deal come together. And so second time, launched a product, did everything necessary, right? 5 steps, got it into a potential licensee, emailed me back. They said, Dave, we love this. Let's get a licensing deal together. Again, started working on the contract. Kickstarter came out. I'm like, at that point, I started hating Kickstarter because this all happened in a 6-month period. It happened. This is the third time. And so in that, they're like, and it was even the same name, like on my sell sheet, same name, same pitch, same everything. And the company actually called me pissed off because they're like, Dave, what the hell are you doing? Like, you're doing a Kickstarter campaign, you're trying to license this to us. And I'm like, that's not me. And they're like, oh, what's going on here? And so, and it was just like eerily similar that the Kickstarter campaign had my same name, same concept, same everything. And it was just the case that this was a product that already had the patent. So it was 6 months past their filing date. So their patent was public. And then the company actually had their attorneys come on and do patent research on my product. And they found 6 other patents that basically blanketed right over the top of mine. And they're like, the company came back to me, they're like, we can't license this from you because there's 6 other patents that essentially lay over the top of this thing. And I was like, no way. Like, that kind of like blew my mind at that moment, because I was just like, what is going to happen here? But I stood back and I was like, no way. Like, I understand that like this product is different, right? And so I sat down and I read through all 6 patents in like fine detail. And this is actually where I really learned how to license patent or how patents worked. Because before that, I was like writing patents or PPAs, and I didn't understand the dynamics of like how the different components work together. I was just doing it, right? There's a difference between like intellectually understanding things and then emotionally. Like, when you intellectually understand things, you understand like, all right, there's an abstract, there's a description, there's drawings, and they are there. But then when you emotionally understand it, and this is the way I explain it, is when you emotionally understand things, you understand how mechanically they work together, and you understand the concepts of how they're created to make a patent. And so in doing that, it was like they essentially issued me a challenge. They said, David, there are 6 other patents and this other product that's launching that blanket over the top of your product, and so we can't license it from you. If you can figure out a way around this, then we'll pay you 5%. And essentially, it's like, what that meant to me was figure out this patent situation, and I've got a licensing deal on the other side. So I read through those 6 patents. I actually created this document where it was explaining like, here's this patent, here's what they're patenting, and this is our way, or this is how my product fits. Like, the patent actually fits between these 2. And so I did that with all 6 patents. I showed them exactly how to fit my product or my design into the patent landscape that was there. And then the issue came up. Hey, there's a Kickstarter. And I explained to them, like, you guys, you are an established company and you have distribution, you have, product on the shelf. This is 2 guys putting their stuff out of their garage, and they made this video. Like, if you can't beat them, like, what are we doing here? And they're like, yeah, you're right. And so once we confirmed the patent wasn't an issue, and they confirmed that they're better than these Kickstarter guys, we rebranded it. We got around those patents. We weren't necessarily, we designed the product so that it worked around those patents. And then they ended up doing a licensing deal. Let me check something real quick here. Sorry, guys, a little technical difficulty here. All right, that should be back up and running. Cool. And so Cody, I hope that answers your question on the patenting process. If you run in, oh, well, actually you had a 2-part question here. And so your 2-part question was, what if we find out during the patenting process that an idea has already been patented? Well, so ideas are patented, but the way they get there is different. And that is how the patenting process works, is you are not necessarily patenting the idea, you're patenting the way it gets there. And so if you find a concept that somebody wants to license, then a lot of times you can figure out how to patent it. One of the patent attorneys that I had worked with, it was interesting. And this guy has been in the business for a long time. And what he said was, a lot of times, if you can figure out how to sell it, we can figure out how to get it patented. And that just rang so true to me that, like, all right, if you can figure out a way to sell it, we can figure out how to protect it. So I always look to sell first, protect later. And that's what's brought me a lot of success in this business. And so next question, can you license to more than one company? Yes, yes, and yes. Actually, you attempt to, because then it gives you what should I say? It's like if you had a rental property, right? A rental house, and you're renting it out to one tenant, right? That's one set of income that's coming in. Well, in licensing, you can almost like split that license or split that rental up into multiple rooms, even though that's not, I guess a rental is not the best example because you can't just automatically split it. But a license is a technology that is patented, and you can license it to multiple companies. And I have one licensed product that is licensed to 2 companies. So I'm generating royalties from 2 separate revenue sources. And it's actually best to do that. It's not always reasonable. And what I want to bring up is, because as soon as I talk about that, like, inventors are like, oh, I want to just license to 25 companies. So it's one product. That'd be great. I'm like, it doesn't work like that. Like, that's not honest. That's not realistic. That's not how it works. And the reason I say that is because when a company licenses a product, they have kind of like first mover advantage. And so when a company licenses a new innovation, what they're doing is they're investing in a product, right? They pay $10, $50, $100,000 to get your product launched. And once it's launched, they have a bigger profit margin typically than the other products that are on the market, because they're new, they're innovative. And so they get their money back faster, because if they're just selling what exists, well, it's a commoditized product. There's a lower margin in those products because everybody's just competing on price. And so the price stays low and they have low margins. But when they launch a new product, they have this bigger margin. Awesome, right? But if you want to license them the product and say, well, I'm going to license to you, but I'm going to license to all these other companies too. And so you invest that $50,000, it's already going to become a commoditized price, and you're not going to get the big margin anymore. And so companies are like, nope, then we just won't do it. And so the way that it typically works is companies won't license unless they have an exclusive. And the way that I do it is I give them an exclusive period for a certain amount of time. So the product launches, it shows that it does well, and then you can license to other companies and bring more companies into that revenue cycle. So companies will not typically do it just to license products and like give you the opportunity to go license to somebody else. They want to capture that bigger margin for launching new products. So coding, yes, they do license to multiple companies. It is an awesome thing to do, but know that it's not realistic to expect that right off the bat. Most of the time I see multiple licensing deals if you're already manufacturing, selling the product in small scale online or in retail, and then you start to license it out. They say, yeah, that's okay, because you've already made the big investment necessary to make the product something that you can sell on the shelf. So hope that helps. Keep the questions coming. Thomas. All right. Does my product need a name before I can license it? Not really. I have some inventors that are like awesome at naming products. I am like, I can't say I'm terrible at it anymore, because I've had companies use my name. Like when I got started, I always thought that I was terrible at naming products. I was better at innovation. Companies have used my name, so I can't be that bad at it. But you don't even need a name. You don't even need a trademark. A lot of times what they're looking at is the benefit that you're adding to their end customer. And so by adding that, and I'm going to actually roll in your second question. Do I need a trademark of that name? So Thomas, no and no, but what companies are looking at is they're saying, hey, that's a great innovation, right? And then if you have added assets, I'm never going to say that those added assets will increase your royalty. So your royalty rate is going to be your royalty rate. And it's a hard pill to swallow when inventors are like, but I invested in all these patents. I invested in all these trademarks. I invested in all this stuff. I'm like, a lot of times you can take a product that's almost a napkin sketch and get the same royalty as you can get for a product that's actually under production. It's kind of crazy. But what happens is it sweetens the deal. All right, so you've got this great product. It's got a patent pending on it, or provisional patent application. It's got a strong market name, right? You create a name. Like this product that I created, it's Perfect Picture. The company actually calls it the Perfect Picture. Their SKU number is PP for patent Perfect Picture. And so they used it as their product name. But other companies, they've switched the names of my products because they wanted to trademark whatever brand that they created. But so Thomas, when you're putting this package together, you got a great innovation, you've got a great brand name, and you've got a trademark, and you've got a website domain that goes all with it, right? That's a nice little package, nice little product that they can sell. It just sweetens the deal. It makes it a better proposition because it's more complete. But I will say I wouldn't file a trademark. I would do a TM, which is a common law trademark, while I'm presenting product. And if a company says this is interesting, we want this to be trademarked and packaged together, then yeah, I'll get them to pay for it. But it's not needed, but it can help. I guess that's what I'll answer those two questions with. It doesn't need a name, but it can help. It doesn't need a trademark, but it can help. Let's go to the chat. I want to make sure nobody's typing in the chat. All right. Thomas, what do you think of the TV show Shark Tank? I think it's a cool show. I think it's fun. But remember, it's for entertainment purposes. It's not like a lot of inventors, they see the products on there and they're like, oh my God, my product is better than theirs. How am I not on Shark Tank? And it's not, that's not the thing. Like that person is on there because when they send in their videotape, that they would look like an entertaining person. It has nothing to do with the product. And so you have to, sorry, I've been cutting off the top of my head and realize, you have to realize that it's all about entertainment. It's not about like good products, innovative. I mean, it is in a way because part of that is entertainment. And so you have to take it, I guess the statement would be take it with a grain of salt. Like what the show is it's for entertainment purposes. I've had friends that are on there. And like they say, sometimes the deal that they talk about on the show is different than the deal in the back room. Because they have, some strings attached. They're not just handing you $450,000. It's like it's incremental. Like, oh, we're going to buy inventory. Here's 10 grand to buy inventory. It's not they're writing you a check for this stuff to like walk away with and do what you want. And so you have to take it what it is. Some people use it as like motivation, like, oh, I want to get to the point of Shark Tank. You have to be able to develop your product. You have to be at a certain scale before Shark Tank would necessarily look at your product. I know early on there was some products, the elephant one, that they were almost like napkin sketches, and then they brought them to real products. But I'm not really seeing that too much anymore. I don't watch the show religiously, but I've seen it. And I see some episodes here and there. I'll see it with my friends on it. But it's not, don't make that your goal. Get products licensed, at least from my perspective, unless you're going to venture, because then venturing is a different beast. Like licensing, it's set up to get you royalty checks. Venturing is to get you to build a business. So depends on what your goals are. Thomas, what is the best way to sell my product online? How online? Amazon. Thomas, depends. So this is a huge question I get. And I want to like break this thing down and really dig into it, because I see you got like a lineup of questions here, Thomas, that kind of all are starting to go in a direction, right? I'm going to draw this line like the middle of my face here. Venture, license. And this is more of a life question than a product question. And sometimes it is a product question, but you have to first answer the life question. This side was venture, right? Yeah, venture. So venture, you are building a business. You are investing your own money and probably investment money from friends, family, and outside investors to get your product developed and manufactured at scale and packaged and set up logistics and warehouse and distribution. Once you're done with that, then you set up a website and a way to market and sell. And so like you're not only doing these things, but you're learning how to do them, right? You're learning how to get products manufactured. You're learning how to get them distributed. You're learning how to work with warehouses. You're learning how to deal with customs. You're learning all of these different skill sets. And so if your goal or your vision for your life is to be able to build a business and run a business, I'm not talking about just building, but running a business. See, like my goal was never to run a business. My goal was to be an idea person, right? I wanted to create ideas. I wanted to pitch them, and then I wanted to be given money for it. And that's why like I chose licensing. I went towards the licensing route because that was my objective in life. Because when I saw my life, or I projected my life for it, I said in 3 to 5 years, do I want to be up in the middle of the night talking to an overseas manufacturer to get product in? Do I want to be dealing with customs? No. I want to get royalty checks, and I want to work on other products, right? A lot of inventors, they want to work on multiple products. You don't do that when you venture. And so, Thomas, I guess that's the first question you need to ask yourself. Do you want to build a business, or do you want to be a licensing inventor? And where I see problems arise is when people want to be a licensing inventor, right? They want royalty checks, but they start pitching their products and they stall out. They're not getting the answers that they want. And so they're like, oh, well, if they're not going to say yes, well, then I'll just go get it manufactured myself. And I'm like, that is a slippery slope, because one thing, you're pitching to professionals that have been in a specific business or category, sometimes 10, 20, 30, 40 years, right? And they look at your product and say, I wouldn't put my money into that thing. And then you're going to come in as an amateur and say, I'm going to invest tons more money because I don't know what I'm doing in this product, and I'm going to see it become a reality. Like, it doesn't make sense at that point in the game. Is that we're not going to, well, I mean, for me, I wouldn't do this. Like, if a company tells me no, and multiple companies in a category tell me no, this is not going to work, I'm not going to sit there and be like, well, I'll make it work because I don't have any experience and like I can just push harder. Like, that doesn't make any sense. So don't invest once companies tell you no. Figure out why they're telling you no, because they're telling you no for a reason, right? Your product stinks, your pitch stinks, something about your product doesn't work that you don't understand. Great example. I went out and pitched a product. Super excited about it. It was one of those products I was like, this thing will be game changing in the industry, and it'll just be a different way of doing things. And then I pitched to all these companies. They all said no. I was like, what is wrong with all these people? And so when I started asking, well, what's wrong? After like 3 or 4 months of pitching, I finally got a company say, this product's not manufacturable. I was like, what do you mean? And it was something that I didn't understand as somebody that's been in the business for 20 years. They just looked at it and they're like, it's not manufacturable. The tolerances that needed to happen were not in line with the manufacturing practice that I intended. And so like, just, you can't make it. I'm like, so I pitched to all these companies. And so like, if I would have looked at that and said, all these companies told me no, and I'm like, I'm going to do it anyways, I would have invested all this money and then ran into this roadblock of like, oh, the thing's just not going to end up performing the way it needs to. And so don't go pursue venturing because you get no's in licensing. Find out why they're no's first. There's one reason that you would actually jump from licensing to venturing is because companies tell you, yes, this is a crazy great investment and I would do it. And if your product is too revolutionary, companies don't license revolutionary, they license evolutionary. And there's a fine line between the two, but like Dyson vacuum is a great example. Nobody would license his super expensive vacuum technology. And so Mr. Dyson ended up venturing the product, and the rest was history. So, yeah. And Thomas had the follow-up question, will I get a better licensing deal if I have sales? No, you will not. And you'll have actually a lot of people that will tell you that you will, but you won't. The reason I know that is I've helped people license products that are manufacturing, producing, and selling products, and they have sales, and they usually get between 3 and 7%. And I've had people that are basically at a napkin sketch or like just a sell sheet. They don't even have prototypes, and they get between 3 and 7%. What you will get is a company, there is a higher probability of licensing, but you won't get a better licensing deal. And the reason that is because companies don't like licensing is set up so that you don't, it's a safety net for companies. And so companies, they don't want to invest any money. So if they can look at your product and you've already invested in manufacturing, production, distribution, and you've got all that stuff figured out, they can say, well, hey, Thomas, let us buy 100 units off you and we'll go test it out. So instead of investing, $30,000 to $50,000 in six months to a year of time of development in getting your product on the shelf, they just invest, $800 in buying samples from you for them to go sell. And if it doesn't work, they're out $800, not $50,000 in a whole year. And so that's why you have a higher probability of licensing, because if you have sales, then they'll be like, yeah, of course we'll take this on. Of course we'll want to jump on this. But it won't increase your deal. Just doesn't. And then Thomas said, what do you think of Kickstarter? Depends on where you're going with your project, venture, licensing venture. It's a great thing. Licensing doesn't make a difference. You actually don't want to do a Kickstarter when you're licensing. And then he asked him another question. Have you written a book or a manual on licensing? I have not, but it's something that I'm starting to work on. I haven't told many people yet. Ray said, hey, handsome. Hey, Ray. Thank you. I did just get a haircut. So I hope you're doing great. Let's jump over to Anise. And I hope I'm not pronouncing your name incorrectly. If the licensee changes the name of your product after the licensing period, does the name come back to you, or is now the trademark the licensee's? Depends on how you structure the deal. And that is an important part, so trademarks can actually be much more powerful in licensing deals. One of the coolest licensing deals that I've seen is it's actually a trademark deal. And so it's a game, and the game includes a copyright of the rules and then a trademark of the brand. And so it's not an actual patent, because patents, like this licensing deal that my friend had done, he did it in 1982. And so by that point, the patent would be done and he would stop getting paid. But instead, he licensed the trademark and the brand. And the trademark and the copyright have much longer life, right? Copyrights are 75 years past the life of, since the death of the creator, and trademarks can be owned by companies so they can live on forever. And so essentially, if you can license a trademark, and this is where it becomes cool. So let's say you license a widget, and the widget has this awesome trademark, right? Let's say you're doing a cleaning supply tool, right? And you call it the Clean-O-Matic, and they license a trademark too. And so the product starts selling, it gets a lot of market recognition. They're like, hey, let's put a couple of products underneath this trademark. Well, they're using your trademark. You're getting paid for other products that are not even your innovation, right? And so a lot of times they'll do like, all right, you get 5% on your product and 2% on trademarks. So you're getting 7% on your product and then 2% on any other product that sells. Well, let's say that product or that brand starts to become very powerful in their product line. Well, now you're starting to get 2% on a big range product, or 3% or 4%, whatever you negotiate for your trademark. Well, now, and let's say your patent expires. Well, your trademark's still paying you. And so trademarks can actually be super powerful in licensing deals. And that's why I love if they want to incorporate the brand that I created along with the product, then heck yeah, I want to trademark it. And heck yeah, I want to incorporate it in the licensing deal so that I get paid on anything else that gets put underneath that trademark, because then you will start to get more power in your licensing deal. You'll get more dollars. And you know how we talked about earlier, the rental property, you can get more companies. Well, this, you just get more products underneath your one brand and you'll get paid more for it. So Anise, I hope that helps and answers your question. Do write in any other questions. Let's see here. Book. Cody, can you license jewelry designs? Yes. Or does that fall under some other type of protection? Sometimes it can fall under copyright or design products or design patents. And so, yes, you can. And yes, jewelry, sorry. And so, yes, you can. I've had students license jewelry designs, and it's something that you need to figure out or learn and understand further what the intellectual property needs to be. It's not always just as straightforward as I've got this innovation, I file a PPA and I get a licensing deal. Sometimes there's copyright involved. Sometimes there's trademark involved if you're creating like a brand of jewelry. And then also there are design patents that can be used. And also a cool thing about some design patents is if there's design, if there's functionality within the design, a lot of time that design patent can be used much like a utility to protect. So like if it has to function with one specific design and it can't really function the same way, well, then the design patent actually has some power in it in terms of the functionality. And so I know that's getting a little bit deeper in, but it can be useful in the process of getting jewelry licensed. And Bridget said, what is your fee to help with getting an invention licensed? It really depends on the project, but I do have a partnership program where I take on the project and I help people. Well, I don't just help, I just do the whole thing. And so if you are interested in that, please do email me, David@InventTribe, and we can kind of talk more about what that looks like and how it works, because every project is different. Every project is at a different phase. And so it's kind of more project based than it is necessarily like, here's a blanket term on how it's going to work. Let's see here. Peter from New Zealand. I love it. Peter, it's either got to be, oh, it's the next day. So hi from Wednesday if you're in Thursday. These days, if you can make a physical prototype of your simple invention with a 3D printer, why can you not just copyright your invention? Correct. You can. And so, but remember this, like copyright is one type of protection. And that's why I always tell people, like, the intellectual property system is the rules to the game. And so when they're the rules of the game, it's like copyright, design patents, trademarks, patents. These are all different ways to use intellectual property to protect your product. But I'm going to go back to an earlier comment that I made, and I hope you're on when you heard it, but it's almost more important to be able to sell your product than it is to protect it. I know that sounds backwards for a lot of inventors or counterintuitive, but working with a very successful long-term patent attorney, he said, if you can figure out how to sell it and license it, we'll figure out how to protect it. And what he means by that is there's so many different avenues to protect with all the different tools. And so you're saying with the, let me find your question again. These days, if you can make a physical prototype of your invention with 3D printing, why can you not just copyright it? Well, the copyright will just copyright the essentially the layered imagery that is used to create the 3D print, but that doesn't protect the functionality of it. And so when I say that, I have to be careful with my word, because when you patent something, you're not patenting what it does, you're patenting how it gets there. And so that gives you power in, all right, a copyright is somewhat of a thin protection, because if they make modifications to it outside of that exact copyright and it functions the same way, then they're around your copyright. So knowing and understanding the different tools from the USPTO or in protection and intellectual property and using them appropriately will help you protect your product better, and it'll help you get better licensing deals. So yes, you can use a copyright when you have the 3D print. You can use a provisional patent application, and you can use trademarks. You can use all of these to encompass your intellectual property or encompass your product and innovation so that you can get it licensed. So I hope that helps or gives you an idea about what to do with your intellectual property and how to use it to your advantage to get your product protected well. And remember this, I'm gonna throw this little bit on top, is that a lot of intellectual property, and I have to give a caveat to this also, is that intellectual property, there's a part of it that is about giving the inventor confidence. And what I mean by that is, like, most consumer product categories, when you're pitching a product from a sell sheet or prototype, companies are not set up or not out to necessarily steal your product, because one, they don't know if it's successful. Two, they don't know your intellectual property status fully. And three, like, it's not successful. They don't know if it's going to be a winner or not. And so what they do is they want to start moving forward. They want to start the conversation with you. And so when you're getting started, the intellectual property doesn't have to be perfect. That's what a lot of inventors do, is they set out and they're like, I got to have a patent, I got to have a copyright, I got to have a trademark, I got to have them all perfectly, I got to file them all and spend, $25,000 on my IP portfolio before I start. And I'm like, well, I spend $100 and I get a company that says we're interested and we want to license this, and then I'll start making bigger investments in the product. But so, like, I flip it and I do it backwards, right? I get interest, I get companies on board, and they start paying for my IP before I start investing a ton of money. And so if you do it backwards from what the general public knows, well, then you actually get licensing deals, and you don't have to invest this huge sum of money and most of the time be stuck with IP that doesn't necessarily get deals. So I hope that gets your head or helps you see a picture for getting your product licensed. And getting a lot of questions in here, which is freaking awesome. But I'm going to have to start moving a little bit quicker on these. So Anise, like you, I would like to be a licensing inventor. At what point would you think it's time to consider manufacturing? For me, never. And reason being is I don't want to venture. I don't want to have inventory in my garage. I don't want to. And this is what you have to look at, is you are going to develop a skill set throughout this process. From when you're going from A to B, you're going to develop skills. So, like, what skills do you want to develop? Do you want to develop the skills to learn how to license a product, or do you want to develop the skills on how to manufacture, produce, warehouse, distribute, market, and sell? Like, do you want to learn venturing skills, or do you want to learn licensing skills? Licensing skills, you need multiple products. You need to be able to pitch multiple products. When you're looking at, if you have one and only, and you've only got one idea and that's all you want to pursue, I'd pitch it for licensing, see what they say, get feedback. And this is actually quite the hack, is, like, even if your 100% whole intention is to venture, go license it, or go attempt to license it first. Because when you pitch it to a potential licensee, they will literally get on the phone with you and tell you what your problems are going to be and what your best, like, benefits are. So they will give you like 20 to 30 years of experience all crunched down into like a 5-minute conversation and say, your product will work because of this, this, and this, or it will fail because of this, this, and this. And, like, their advice is absolutely gold because they have so much experience and they've seen other products. Like, I remember pitching a product to, it was Warren Tuttle, and Warren Tuttle, amazing amount of experience in the business. He said, oh, a product similar in that category was done like 9 years ago, and they had this and this problem. It wasn't the exact same problem, but it was similar. And he said they ran into these products at retail. So fix those problems, and then you probably get a licensing deal. And so like, boom, right? That's awesome. And so, and if you're looking at when is the time to consider manufacturing, it's if you want to have a business that you want to run and you don't want to be an idea person, then you go pitch it for licensing, see what their feedback is, and then go manufacture. That is the goal, or that's your vision for your future. Then go after that. Don't pump the brakes. Just go right for it. But if your whole intention in life is to be a royalty check inventor, don't ever consider manufacturing. Hope that helps. Thomas, if you agree to give an exclusive license to one company, how can you be sure the one company will spend the effort and money to promote the product? You can't. It's a partnership. And so you are having faith in them and they're having faith in you. A lot of times you can get minimum guarantees, but minimum guarantees are not set up to put their feet to the fire and push them for more, because minimum guarantees, and this is something that's very technical, and I've actually spent an entire 1-hour webinar explaining this to people inside the tribe, was that minimum guarantees are set up so that the technical component of how a minimum guarantee works within a contract is it returns the intellectual property to you if there is non-performance. It's not meant to push more volume in sales. You can use it like that, but most of the time licensees will not sign a licensing agreement with that in it unless you already have a successful product. And so, Thomas, you have to have faith in them. Like I remember one of my licensees, they were a one product company. They had another one on the way, but I was going to be their third product. And in that journey, I looked at them like, they're a small company. Like they don't have this huge volume of products. They're not in all these stores, but I had faith in them, right? They're a growing company, and now they're everywhere. They're selling them on all these different places. And so like, you have to have faith in them. You have to work with them. You have to try to help them. You do put minimum performance guarantees so that there's a floor that basically if they fall below the floor, you can take the product back and get it in with another licensee. Here's the caveat, or here's the thing with that. Company A launches the product. It goes out in market. They start selling it and it doesn't do very well. There's a public display of this product not doing well. The likelihood of you being able to take that intellectual property to another company and say, hey, company, they just did a crap job of it. You can do better, right? They're going to say, we don't want to invest in that. That thing didn't do well over there. And so a lot of times it's more about you having a great relationship and being able to help push the product with your licensee if they're having trouble. Like one of my products, they had a rough time starting to pitch it. And they actually had me in on marketing meetings. And it was funny because it was like, I went through the same sequence when I was marketing. When I started marketing it, it didn't communicate very well in like static sell sheets and like still pictures. It wasn't until you saw a live video. And so when they started pitching it, they went out to all these companies and everybody said no. And they're like, what's going on? They're having this roundtable discussion on what's going on. I'm like, whoa, guys. Like, I already went through this. I pitched to 20 companies. Nobody responded with this almost exact same marketing material. Nobody came back to me. And they're like, whoa, what do you mean? And I was like, as soon as I started pitching into video, you guys and like 10 other companies wanted to license this product. And they're like, oh, like they didn't realize that there was that many companies that wanted to license it. And so they're like, they changed over to video. And so they did more of their marketing through video and sales started going up. But it was me being involved, right? I stayed involved. I kept a relationship. It's still not to where I hoped it'd be. And that's the way it is with most products. You hope it's through the roof and industry changing and all that stuff. But, they're always growing. They're always selling more. So, Thomas, I hope that helped. Do keep sending the questions. I appreciate it. David Emerson, thank you for the question. Like a lot of inventors, I have a lot of ideas. What criteria do you use to figure out which product idea to pursue? This here is another topic that I'm going to boil it down in 3 minutes. So start out with your personal skill set. I don't do electronic products because I don't understand technically how they work. you don't always need to know technically how everything works, because a lot of times when you're pitching an electronic product to an electronic company, they will understand that. But I personally would have a rough time in that conversation because I don't know enough about it, and I would need to scale my knowledge in electronics so that I understood circuitry and batteries and charging and all these different things, which I just don't have that, or I haven't had the desire to acquire that knowledge. And so first, take your list of products and start putting them into essentially your circle of understanding. And then that will edit your list, right? You'll take off some of those Bluetooth products that you don't necessarily know how they would work. And then start to categorize. Take your list. Sometimes I have inventors show up in my door, I got 150 ideas on a list. Say, all right, awesome. Take that list and categorize it. And this is the first thing. I have a couple inventors in my tribe, Rick and other ones that were like very specific on this. They're like, I got this big old list. What do I do? Like, categorize it. Once you categorize it, you will see that there is a specific area in which you invent in a prolific way. And the inventors that had to do this, they're like 150, and it broke down to like 60 products in one category, 10 in this product, 10 in this category, 10 in that category, like 5 in another. And it was just like then scattered, right? And so you have that big category, like 80 products. You need to scrape the other ones off the board and just look at this category. The most successful inventors that I've ever coached, I have inventors that license 12 products a year. I have another inventor that's working on over 70 products in one licensing deal in 1 year. They're all category inventors, ones that are prolific, that license a lot, that close a lot of deals and make money, are category inventors. You don't necessarily hear too much about inventors that are like, oh, I invent like toy products and new generators and new computer chips. And like, no, you don't really hear about that. You hear about inventors being prolific in one category. So get your sphere of understanding. So it's all the products that you understand how they can work, not all the way, but in an almost technical sense. So scrape the rest ones off the list, then categorize them, then figure out the category that you're in, that you do the most prolific inventing in. Then from there, extract 3 to 5 ideas, do research on them. Figure out your competitive advantage, figure out 3 to 5 competitive products. And through that research on those 3 to 5 products, one will stand out as being like, all right, this product just makes sense. And through that exercise, that sequencing, you will boil it down to the products you need to execute on that will have a higher probability of licensing than other ones. There's an emotional component to this also, is you have to be excited about it, but it can't be your baby. I had my baby and I started working on it early on in my inventing career. What I mean by your baby is that you've got a product that you love so much that drives you to show up at webinars, read books, start building prototypes, doing all these things in the real world instead of just thinking about it, right? It's that emotionally connecting product. You're so emotionally connected to it, you screw things up. What I want to expand on that is that it's like, all right, it's time to go pitch to companies. You're like, oh, I don't know about that, right? I don't want to get my baby out in the world because it'll get stolen, right? You're too emotionally connected to execute successfully on it. But if you don't believe in the product, then you won't run through the brick walls necessary to get the deal closed. So you need to have an emotional connection, but it can't be your one and only. I know everybody in this room has got a product that like, if this product gets licensed, if this product gets on the shelf, that will change my life. A lot of times that's not the product to start with because you have too much of an emotional connection. I hope that helps. So do message in, David, if you have any more questions. Paul, hi, David. If a company has a prototype and is getting manufacturing price quoting from their factory, at what point do I start talking about the licensing agreement with them? Paul, this is super, super important. Do not talk to them while they're getting pricing. There's this upside down bell curve of when to talk about licensing deals, right? We're talking about how to negotiate. And this is part of the process that I have specialized in, right? It's where the psychology and business meet. You have emotions of 2 different parties, right? Inventor and company. This is not necessarily just nuts and bolts. It's emotional, right? Because you as the inventor, you have emotions, right? You want to find out what is next, how these things are going to move. And so emotionally, how you are going to react, how they're going to react. And when that is the case, you need to take into account the psychological and emotional impact of where the product is at. So I want you to imagine this like bell curve with me, right? So I'm terrible at drawing this. I wish I could just pull up a graphic. I think I've got a graphic, but it'll take me too long to pull it up. So right here, they first see the product. They're super emotionally connected with it because they're like, yes, this is an amazing product. We want to license this. We think we can take this thing to the moon. We can change the world. We can bring in $1 million of the company. I can get a raise. I can buy my kid the college education that they want with the commission dollars from this. Time to negotiate, right? They will say, oh yeah, we can give you an 8%. We believe in this product so much. And then they're like, all right, so let's get moving forward. We're going to start figuring out how to make this thing a reality. Emotions and excitement start to go down. Reason being is when they start to get pricing back, they're like, oh, that pricing is a little bit higher than I thought. That is going to knock our margin down. We're having a difficulty packaging it. This is not going to work out exactly like I had imagined it, right? So this emotional downslide is happening, and they hit this bottom where they like, all right, we can do this. But then, so they start presenting it to buyers, right? And buyers are like, hey, we love this. We want to carry it. This is the price we can pay, right? So their enthusiasm and excitement starts coming back up. And they're like, yeah, we can make this possible. We can do sales. We can do it at this price point, right? We have a margin here, right? Enthusiasm, excitement starts coming back up. And you will feel this when you are working with them. When you're having conversations with them, they're going to start talking like, oh my God, this is not going to work, right? It's like this plane that's crashing, and it does it slowly through emails. And you're like, oh my God, this is not going to work out. And it's just taking it through the nosedive and up into the other side that you will see and feel through conversation that they're like excited about this again. They're like, this thing is going to work. That's when it's time to negotiate again. So negotiate on the ends. Do not negotiate in the middle. It sounds like you're in that middle point. So do not negotiate. Try to get by without having that deal structure created within that period, in that low dip emotionally. Wait till you're back up to the top and you will get a better deal. What's the name of your beer pitcher when you started off with? It was called the Perfect Pitcher, and they continue to call it the Perfect Pitcher. And so that's the one company that took it all the way through. Peter from New Zealand. But with the new technology, times have changed. Does it not make sense for the IP industry to move with it? I think you're going back and talking about a continuation of a question from earlier. Can you fill me in a little bit more from that? Thomas said, how do I learn what companies might be interested in licensing my product? Thomas, this is a question I get all the time. And it's funny because I asked this question to a company. I was like, well, what are you interested in licensing? They told me, go do your homework and come back. And it's funny because all inventors, they want to know, what do companies want to license? And all companies come back with, go do your homework and then come back to us. But here's the secret. If you go and pitch 3 to 4 products in one industry, right? You pitch them to companies. They usually, first product, they'll tell you no. Second product, they'll tell you no, but then they'll give you feedback. Third product, they might say yes. Or they might say, hey, Thomas, this is the kind of product that we're looking for. And so if you start out and try to ask that question, they'll tell you, no way, we don't know, because we don't know you from Adam, and we don't know your value. And so show your value first, present products, present innovation. And if they start to like it, they start to like you. And if they start to like you, they start to give you the insight, right? They start to show you what kind of products that they're looking for. And that's what gets them to keep the conversation going and showing you what it is that they're looking for. And so, how much are typical patent attorney fees? Cody said, thank you, Cody. How much are typical patent attorney fees? Depending on where you're at. What I found is usually people on the coasts, they charge more because you're in big cities. Big city attorneys charge bigger fees, right? $300, $600, $800 an hour. And so you're looking at like $10,000, $15,000 of patents. If you're looking at a patent attorney in a smaller city, so like I'm in Lansing, Michigan. My patent attorney, great. He's got over a decade of experience. If he was living in a big city, he'd be probably charging $400 an hour. I think he charges like $250 an hour. And so being in a smaller city, right? Cost of living is smaller. they pay patent attorneys less. It's not necessarily that there is a lower skill level. It's just that's where they live and that's where they want to work. And so what my recommendation is, find a patent attorney that's not necessarily in a big city. You can email me. I can send you his contact information. Patents usually land between 5 and 10 grand, depending on how big it is. And usually they can give you a quote on the front end. They say, hey, this patent's going to land at 6 grand, barring no crazy, anything else. Then you have usually patent office actions, and those usually land about 2 grand a piece, depending on how much is involved in rewriting. So I'm going to go hot seat because I've got about 10 questions I've got to answer. And so I'm going to go through them a little bit quicker, but I do appreciate everybody putting their question in. So I hope you don't feel that I'm not getting to your question as detailed as I have the whole thing. I hope to give you as much value as I can. So Peter from New Zealand, sorry, I've come in here late, but does it not make more sense to license your idea with a manufacturer and factory your $1 royalty into the X work cost out of China and concentrate on signing distribution agreements? Peter, that is a very different type of deal. I have coached on these deals, but there's a couple different issues. And I think you actually commented on one of my YouTube videos, and I wanted to email you so we can start a conversation on this. But so when you're working directly with China, right, there is a bit of a fear, right? Because when you're working with China, the intellectual property rules and how copycats and knockoffs work is a little bit different, right? And then also finding a partner in China or a manufacturer that would work with you and pay you a royalty, that is another story. But so I understand where you're coming from and how you can make this work. Because a lot of times there are companies that just distribute product. They don't care. They white label, right? They'll find somebody to distribute, and then you have it manufactured, and then you get your $1 per unit. They manufacture it, they put their label on it, and then they sell it to a distributor. And the best way I can explain it is there's 3 layers, right? And the top layer is retailers, Home Depot, Lowe's, Menards, Walmart, Bed Bath & Beyond, all these different retailers, right? The people that customers buy from. You can actually license right here. I don't necessarily recommend it because you have the smallest distribution chain. And so when you're into Bed Bath & Beyond, everybody's like, yes, I got a licensing deal with Bed Bath & Beyond. You have 900 stores, right? And so let's say your royalty rate's typically a little bit higher because your deals are usually based off of retail price. So you're getting your 3 to 5% off retail. So your $20 product, you're getting 5% off $20, you're getting $1 per unit. Sweet. But then you're only 900 stores at best. But then when you slide down to the second band, right, retailers, distributors, and brands is the middle band. And this is where I see most licensing deals and they do their royalty based off of wholesale price. So that $20 product, you're getting your 5% off of $10, right? So you're getting 50 cents a unit. But that distributor can sell in Walmart, Lowe's, Home Depot, Bed Bath & Beyond, all these different places, right? And so their distribution chain goes from 900 to like 5,000. And so when you're at 5,000 distribution points versus 900, your 50 cent difference is not, you're going to make more at the 50 cent level at the distributor level. I have done licensing deals on the 3rd layer down, which is the manufacturing. That's what Peter's talking about. The issue is it's much more difficult because manufacturers will be like, yeah, of course we can make it, but who's going to buy it? And that's where true licensing, or that's what the power of licensing is you're licensing to a company that has a distribution chain. You're not necessarily licensing to them to be able to make it, right? Because you can go to China and get anything made, or you can go to, a manufacturing rep and get anything made, but you can't necessarily sell it. And so that's why you're licensing to that middle band, is because they own the distribution chain. Now, if you license to a manufacturer and you can pipe it into that distribution chain, then heck yeah, more power to you, because then you can put your $1 royalty on it, you can sell it to them, and then you can take your product and go sell it to another distributor. So there is power in that. It's just a little bit more of a technical step, because now you're working direct with China, or you're working direct with a manufacturer's rep. Working with a manufacturer's rep, they're going to put their margin on it. You're going to put your margin on it. Then it's going to go to a distributor. They're going to put their margin on it. And then it's going to hit retail. And it's like, you got to have a lot of margin in that product to make it a reality. So a lot of times you got to work manufacturer direct, get your royalty from them. And then you're essentially becoming, in a way, a venturing model, because now you're in charge of sales. So it depends. It can be a cool deal. It depends on how hard you want to work on it. And then Peter says every licensing agreement is in essence a termination agreement. Yeah, you're terminating your rights to the product and you're giving them to somebody else. So Peter, I hope that answers your question. And if you want to talk about it more, shoot me an email, David@InventTribe, and we can chat more about it. Ray, Dave, remember, keep smiling and never give up your dreams. Appreciate you, Ray. Always enthusiastic and positive. Paul said, is it a bad idea to license two products that could compete with each other? Yes. Well, no, it's not. It's great. But some companies have a non-compete in their licensing agreement, so you wouldn't necessarily be licensing each product to a different company. You'd be licensing both products to the same company, but they wouldn't necessarily license two products that compete with each other. Not all licensing agreements have a non-compete in it that you can't pitch to others, but some of them do. So be mindful of that as you go into it. So if you have two competing products, yeah, do pitch them. But know that if you end up signing a licensing agreement that says no compete, you're stuck, right? You got the other one that's going to be obsolete. Ray said, InventTribe's a great company. Thank you, Ray. Cody, wish I knew sooner. Wish I knew that sooner. Last product I patented with an attorney was north of 20K. Thank you for your input. Yeah, Cody, sorry. Yeah, the inventing process can get very pricey, especially if you don't necessarily know what you're doing or haven't been through the process before. You know, I've worked with people that are well north of that 20,000 when they could have got by with a couple $100. At what point is it safe to provide one's PPA if the potential licensee is asking? Both sides have signed an NDA. So this is a question. So sorry, let me reiterate that question because I kind of mumbled through it. At what point is it safe to provide one's PPA if the potential licensee is asking? Both sides have signed an NDA already. So we have sticks and we have carrots. And what I mean by that is you have a carrot, right? If you think about a donkey, the old like cartoon where they have the donkey and they're holding the carrot out in front of them, the donkey's sitting there trying to eat it, but it's slowly going forward. Well, there's three main carrots we have as licensors in the negotiation process. And remember, inventor, licensor, licensee is company. So we as the licensor, we have three carrots: PPA, CADs, and prototypes. And so what we do is we use those things as carrots to lead our licensee through the process of actually licensing the product. So you'll get a lot of licensees that will email you back saying, Dave, can you send us your prototype, your patent, everything, pull down your pants, let's get it all. And then you send it all to them and they're like, all right, thanks, see you later. And that's what I did early on. So I want to tell you this story. It's kind of funny. I'll try to get it quick. Early on in my inventing career, I had a lot of what I thought were obviously great products. That's why I would pursue them, pitch them to companies. Companies say, yeah, Dave, this is interesting. Send us a prototype. And so I got so many of those. The woman at the post office thought I was running an eBay business, right? Because I was at the post office sending out so many prototypes. She thought I was running an eBay business. Like, she's like, oh, how's your eBay business going? I'm like, what are you talking about? She's like, oh, I thought you ran an eBay business because you hear so much sending out packages. And it was like, I had so many potential licensees asking me, you know, send us your prototype, send us your patents, send us all the stuff. And so I kept doing this. And I was so frustrated because nobody would end up signing a licensing deal. I sent them all the stuff and they say, great, thanks. And that was it. And end of conversation. I'm like, what's going on? So in my evolution of learning how to actually license products instead of just pitch them, I learned that you need to use them like carrots. And so when a company asked for my PPA, I said, great, I'd love to send you my PPA. can I first understand how we're going to work together in terms of a deal? All right. So I'm leading them through the path. I can send you my PPA if we can understand how we can work together in terms of a deal. So I'm getting something out of it, right? I'm asking them, how are we going to structure our licensing agreement if you end up licensing this? We have a discussion, we lay out terms, we sometimes trade term sheets back and forth, then I send the PPA. Then they're like, great, this PPA looks great, the terms look great, can you send us a prototype? I say, great, and then I'll say, what's our next step? And I'd say, great, let me send you the prototype. What's our next step in getting this license? And they'll say, well, getting the prototype and then getting pricing and getting in front of buyers. And so I start to use the things that I have, right? The big three: patents, prototypes, and CADs, as my carrot to lead my potential licensee down the process of actually licensing and doing a deal with me. Once I learned how to do that, I'll tell you, I pitched 18 products. And what was so interesting to me was that when I pitched 18 products, everybody thinks that's oh my God, I'm not going to go and pitch 18 products. You don't have to. Most of my students license their products on their third try or fourth try. It doesn't take 18. I was, one, not very good at it, and two, it takes me a while to learn stuff. But once I learn it, I'm pretty good at it. And so here was the crazy cool part is I licensed, so I pitched 18. I licensed number 19, 20, 21. So I licensed literally 3 products in a row, right? This thing clicked. I was like, okay, stop sending them prototypes, stop sending them patents, stop sending them everything when they ask, start drawing things out. So it was this thing that clicked, right? I pitched 18 straight products and didn't do anything. And then I pitched 3 straight products and licensed all 3. And it was something that clicked in my head that this is how to license products. And so it was almost like a formula, and the formula finally went like that. And so what I'm saying to you is hold the PPA back. You're going to show it to him, and you tell him you're going to show it to him, but make sure that you're drawing components out for yourself, steps to move yourself forward. And so I hope that helps in moving you forward through your licensing deal. If they're asking for PPAs, that means they're interested and means that things are progressing. So Anise, thank you for answering the question. Cole says, love this, glad I'm here. Thank you, Cole. Sandy said, trademarks, is it just the name or does it include color, unique shape? It can. So it depends on what you're trademarking, right? That is my trademarked brand, right? Gorilla name. You can trademark just name. You can trademark the shape. You can trademark the color. I think they're trying to trademark sounds and other things like that. So yeah, it includes a lot of stuff. Bridget asked what my email was. It is david@inventtribe. So if anybody else has any questions, do email me. Glenn, my PPA has expired. Can I resubmit that same PPA or do I have to make changes to it? It's a board game and I've already copyrighted the rules. My sell sheet is also done. Can you provide me with negotiation contract assistance only? What would that cost? Glenn, yes and yes. So your PPA has expired. Can you resubmit it? Yes. You want to incorporate anything that you've learned over the last year, right? Usually a lot of times when you're pitching products, when you're playing with them, you have improvements. Incorporate all of those. But listen to this, you're not resubmitting it to extend, you're resubmitting it as a whole new filing. The other one, it's like it doesn't exist. You can't reference back to the previous filing. So once it expires, it expires. It's done, it's gone, it's closed into a black hole. It cannot be retrieved. And so you can't reference back to it. You have to, so when you file that new one, incorporate all the new ones, file it, but know that you're not capturing the original filing date. You're getting a new one. And you said, can you help me with negotiation contract assistance? Yes, I can. Do email me when you get to that point and we can discuss that on how I help people through the negotiation process. And here's something that I always give to people is that negotiation starts when you start the relationship. So a lot of people, they reach out to me and they're like, hey, can you help me negotiate this deal? And they're like trading numbers at that point. I'm like, I can help you as much as I can, but it's really over already. And what I mean by that, I'm sorry, I'm going to go over I hope everybody wants to stick around because I'm going to go over, because this is a cool topic, and I love negotiation. It's so much fun. So Glenn, I'm gonna dig into this. Is that when you're negotiating, and I'm gonna go into everybody's personal life, is your personal life, you have relationships with your spouse, your drinking buddies, your coworkers, your kids, your aunts, uncles, right? You have all these relationships, and all of these relationships subconsciously or consciously have rules, right? And the easiest way to see those rules is through language. You're not going to talk with your coworkers the same way you do with your drinking buddies. And so you have a different language pattern, right? Sometimes you cuss like a sailor with your drinking buddies, but you don't say a swear word at work. And that's the easiest place to see how you set up rules, right? You have these rules on how you interact with coworkers. You have these rules on how you interact with your spouse. And so when you're negotiating, when you start the very first conversation with your potential licensee, you are establishing those rules. And if those rules are not established in the appropriate way, then your contract negotiation will not go anywhere. And to be specific on that, when a company comes to you and says, hey, Glenn, can you send us your prototype? Hey, Glenn, can you send us your patent? And you're just like, yes. Can you send us your CADs? Yes. Well, then when they come to you and say, Glenn, we can give you a 3% royalty, and you don't say yes, you're breaking the rules of your relationship. You're breaking the protocol that you have set in place your entire relationship. And you know what happens when you're like at work and you break out of the norm? They're like, oh, Glenn's doing something outside of the norm, right? They're breaking the protocols of the rules that we've established as our relationship. And so that's why I'm saying your negotiation is over by the time you get to trading numbers, because you establish the rules of your relationship and how you're going to work with that person and that company very early on. And so that's why I say, when people come to me and they're like, at this point, I'm like, well, I mean, we can try to like tweak things, but really, I mean, we got to kind of just go with the way that this thing is established, because you've never established the rules of your relationship with them in the appropriate way, so that you are, and what I consider is like a reciprocating relationship, right? If you have a spousal relationship where it's like one person just says yes to everything, right? Oh, do this, do that. Yes, right? And one person pushes the other one, and nobody has a great relationship, because then one person's just a pushover and the other one is just mean for pushing them over. And that's the way inventor licensee to licensor relationships become, is like they don't have any fun with developing a product with somebody that's just a pushover that says yes to everything. So you're establishing yourself as a contributing member of their team that doesn't just say yes, that just comes in and adds value and value and value. And you're there not to be a pushover, but to be that contributing member. And once you establish those rules in your relationship with them, then negotiation becomes very easy. Like I've had situations where I'm asking for, $50,000 up front and they say yes. I'm asking for 12% royalties up front and they say yes. And so if you establish those things, those relationship rules early on, you can get yeses to these big, huge asks. But Glenn, if you don't establish the rules early on, then you can't get those yeses. And so if you're looking for help in negotiation, I'd recommend you come to me when the relationship starts, not when you're trading numbers, because at that point, I do help out. I can help you tweak things. I can make sure you're not going down a bad path, but I can't help you negotiate this great, spectacular licensing deal if you're coming to me too late. I can help, but don't come to me too late. Juanita, from your experience, David, what would you say is an average timeline to take a product from idea concept to being licensed? Great question. And that is a huge variable. It depends on the person, depends on the product, depends on the category. But on average, I mean, I've had students in my program license products within 3 months, 4 months, not typical. More typical is like between the 6 and 12 month period of actually getting a product licensed. And then, it's another 6 to 12 months before the product launches. But I've had students that I've worked with for years, right? 3 or 4 years, and they just haven't got a product license because a multitude of different things, right? Their pitching frequency is low, right? They work on one product every 6 to 12 months, and they're not trying to get a feedback loop. They're not getting feedback from the potential licensee on how they can improve things. So like there's certain things that you can tweak to increase your probability or your average timeline of actually closing the deal. And so those are the things that can help you get onto the early end of the spectrum or the timeline of getting your product licensing deal closed faster, is speed up your product feedback loop. So get into companies quicker, get feedback quicker. And that all includes like moving through the research phase quickly, moving through the marketing phase quickly, moving through the protection phase quickly, doing the sell phase very well. Those are the things that will speed up your loop. And so, Juanita, I hope that answers your question. Peter's question. Can you just keep rolling over a PPA every year? As I believe no one actually looks closely at your provisional patent until such time as an unprovisional patent is applied for. Correct. I've heard from patent attorneys, and remember, I'm not a patent attorney, so I'm not giving legal advice, but I've heard from patent attorneys, they say you've got to change the PPA before you file it. So it's tweaking some words and making modification, or just getting it filed with them. I know that you can file the same exact document over and over again, year after year, rolling it over. So the product is patent pending every year. I don't know what that would do in terms of getting your actual patent granted. I don't know if there was patent infringement case and they looked at it and they said, well, you filed all these patents previously and they were all exactly the same, so it doesn't count. But how are they going to find them, right? The PPAs, they disappear into a black hole every year. So how would they know? I mean, that's the thing that's what I would, I guess, lean on in terms of a patent attorney, is I would come to the patent attorney and say, and I know that their answer would be, no, you've got to change it every year, but how are they going to know? Right. So I guess you can, but I would stay on the safe side, and hopefully you've had some improvements over the whole year that you've pitched it, but I guess technically you can refile it. So Peter, I hope that helps. Another question. Hi, David. In your program, do you provide a list of inventor-friendly companies that we can pitch to based on your product category? Yes, I do. So in my base program, I don't. In my higher level programs, we actually build a customized list. So you show us your product and we have a database of companies and we build the company list for you in our higher level programs. And actually I have a freebie at the end of this webinar that includes one of those. So do stick around to the end. Juanita said, thank you for all the great information. Yes, Juanita, of course. Steve said, I invented the laser level. Oh yeah. I have experience with licensing. David is giving everyone accurate and valuable information. Yes, Steve, thank you. I appreciate that. So this is Steve. Sorry, I thought it was coming to a question at the end, but Steve invented the laser level, and he's an experienced inventor. He's licensed products. He's generating royalty, and saying David is giving everyone accurate and valuable information, which is super important, right? You gotta understand that you're getting information from a credible source, and to reinforce that. I've coached over 170 inventors to license their own products. I've licensed my own. This is something that I've been doing for over a decade, and so I understand this process very, very well in a unique way, not only from an inventor, but also from a coach and from a prolific standpoint in terms of volume, because when you see one licensing agreement, you can look at that licensing agreement and say, this minimum guarantee clause is a good one. Or if you've seen 100 licensing agreements, or in my case, or 200 or 300, then those data points are so many that your the difference between good minimum guarantees and not can be a couple different words. And so that really helps in learning and understanding how to get really good licensing deals. Because I mean, one of the things that I'm leaning more and more on is like the company, they can set the royalty rate as long as I get to set the terms of how that royalty is paid out. And that is where you can make a lot more money, is within the terms than necessarily the royalty rate. And so, yeah, Steve, I appreciate you being on, and also congrats again on the laser level. Very cool product. So check to see if we have any more questions. We don't, and we're 22 minutes over, so I appreciate it. I see that everybody stayed on. And so thank you so much. As I mentioned earlier, I have a little mini freebie that if you are interested, so let me pull it up. So the freebie tonight, and you've got to email me and let me know that you were on the webinar so that I can give you the freebie. It's actually a couple layers of freebies. So you have to, depending on where you're at. So if you want to join the tribe, the basic membership, you do. Will there be a reply? Jonathan. I joined late. Okay, Jonathan, I guess if you want to email me any questions or post a question if you like, I'd still answer one. But the freebie that I'm giving away is, if you want to join the tribe, I have my tribe membership. It's usually $2.99 to sign up. So we're eliminating the $2.99 sign up fee, and it's just $99 a month. And then also, if you sign up before the end of the year, so before December 31st, you're getting a free sell sheet or video edit. So we have my sell sheet designers and my video editors. I give access to all our tribe members. And so we're giving a free sell sheet or video edit to anybody that signs up in the month of December. And also we're eliminating the $2.99 sign up fee. So email me, David at Invent Tribe, if you want to get that link, or send me your number and we'll give you a call and we can chat about it. If you want to join our Silver Circle, which the Silver Circle is, we meet weekly. We have a weekly accountability call to make sure that you're moving forward with your progress. You also have email access. We do email coaching, so I'll help you navigate the process of getting your product licensed. And you can check out more about what the Silver Circle is, on how that program works. But this is what I was talking about earlier when, who was it? Somebody had asked if we have inventor-friendly companies. So we will create a free customized list of companies for you that are inventor-friendly. So if you have, if you join the Silver Circle program, then you get that free customized list of 20 companies. Once you show us your product that you're working on, we'll build that list out for you. And so, and here's the other one, because I don't want to leave my tribe members out, right? Because they got to get something too. So I see that I have some of the tribe members that are already members on. And so if you are one of the tribe members that are on, then I appreciate you bringing on the webinar with us. Send me an email and I will give you a link for a free sell sheet or video edit. Thank you everyone for joining in. I think this was one of the coolest, most exciting Q&As we've had. We had so many great questions come in, and I appreciate everybody posting everything. If you have any more follow-up questions, do email me, David at Invent Tribe. Include your phone number, and we can connect over a call. And so thank you so much, everybody, for coming out tonight. I appreciate it. And let's rock this inventing world. I'm really super excited about 2022. I just recorded a YouTube video that you'll see in the next week about what 2022 is going to bring for licensing. And I see, companies have been holding off for 2020, 2021. They've been scared of launching new products. Everything's starting to break loose. I'm seeing more licensing deals as we're approaching the end of the year. And so I think it's going to be this amazing year of licensing products in 2022 because of the pent-up demand of consumers wanting new innovative products and not being able to get them due to the pandemic. So let's crush it in 2022. I'm excited. If you want to join my tribe, I'd appreciate it and love to work with you. And everybody have a wonderful day, evening, wherever you're at in the world. And thank you so much.